and it is the largest irrigation project in this zone of the Federation. The Lower Anambra Irrigation Project? Stay there. Okay. All right. The Lower Anambra Irrigation Project was established in 1981, even though the studies were in the late 70s. And from 1981 to 1987, all the facilities were put in place. And since then, we have run it, cropping rice on 3,850 hectares of irrigated land. Cropping rice alone. And in these are the areas where we're cropping rice. And here you see the Anambra River, and that's what's represented there. The Anambra River is where we're taking the water from. We're taking 120 cubic meters of water per minute. That is like about 8 cubic meters per second into the fields at peak requirement. This is our head race canal that carries the water all the way to a bifurcation. At this bifurcation you have the east main canal and the west main canal. And we crop rice twice in the year, and the dry season cropping is the most important because that is when we have a lot of sunshine and the crops do better, and we get as much as 5 tons, sometimes 4.5 tons per hectare in this project. And the entire project has other facilities. The entire canals in this facility, from the main head race to the main canals and so on, are about 400 kilometers. The roads also within this is about 400 kilometers. The drains that were established also are about 300 kilometers. So you see that with that amount of infrastructure, with all the structures that control the water movement, you require a lot of maintenance on a project like this. So from the time it was established to about the late 90s, a lot of the facilities had broken down and were no longer being maintained as required. Because after each cropping season, all these facilities would require to be maintained. The project was established to facilitate the cropping of rice in this part of the country. And because of it, it was more of a social intervention than a commercial venture by the government. The government was sustaining the maintenance of this facility throughout that period. And as soon as funds were no longer available to continue maintaining all these facilities, the project started breaking down. Because after each season, if the roads are not maintained, if the canals are not maintained, they start deteriorating. Because the soils here are clayey, and even on the roads that the government has also done, you see that there are lots of failures from time to time because of the nature of the soil. So any year there is no maintenance on any of those roads, the failures become increased. So that was what happened to the project before the federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Water Resources, decided to rehabilitate the project. Now, the rehabilitation work was commissioned in 2005, and since 2005, funds have been released for the intervention. But this was supposed to be for 2 years, but it has taken from 2005 till now. It hasn't really been completed, the rehabilitation works, because of the way funds are being released to the project. So some of the project areas that have been repaired and rehabilitated, because they are not being used, begin to deteriorate again. So there's been quite some challenges in trying to put the project in order. Now, we have, in this new administration, we have like what we think will be a solution to bringing this project back to life, because this is actually the passion of this River Basin Authority. Now, we know that when this head race is completely repaired, we can still lift water from here by pumping. But we know also that it is a very expensive venture. 5 pumps, diesel operated, running 22 hours to give us the amount of water we need for irrigation here is very uneconomical. So it can only serve probably as a supplementary irrigation point. So on that, we decided to do a study, and we did a study on Adada River. So from a point after Adaba, we have found a location where we can take water from that will come entirely by gravity into the Lower Anambra Irrigation Scheme. This is the Anambra River here. This is Ifitogwari, where we have our pumping station, and from here our head race runs. But when we pick water from here, we're going to send it into that head race at some point around here, so that we still use the same head race and it will go in here. And from here we're going to pick like 12 cubic meters of water per second from the study we've done up to now, and which is higher because we want to do some expansion works, and we also need water which we should give to the people, because if you as you come along, you will see that the people of this area are cropping rice at a very large way. So we have to give them some water in all those valleys where they are cropping rice, because if we don't give them water, they will vandalize the head race, because our head race is going to run for between 30 to 25 to 30 kilometers. We're going to run the head race from a diversion on Adada River. So that is the study we've done now, and we're still on the drawing board, and the costing is going on, which by next week we should be submitting to our Honorable Minister, so that if there is any intervention that will come to bring water back to this facility and to give us the expansion of the project which is required, that will be very welcome. What we have shown here is a lineup of tractors. We had 135 when this project started in 1981, and of course we have just a few tractors left, about 10, which our Honorable Minister commissioned the last time she visited here last year. So those are the tractors we have now. We actually need much more than that, especially the double traction ones, which wouldn't get stuck in the clayey soil of this project area. The ones we have received so far are single traction ones, which can do some trailing and some other jobs. But if it is helping in getting the land ready, that wouldn't suffice. But it is heartwarming to know that some of the farmers here have been able to buy their own tractors, and they are using those tractors. They are also hiring them out for work, but it's still not sufficient for this area. Apart from our project here, the amount of hectarage of rice cropped in this entire area is more than 25,000 hectares. If we add what the natives are doing on their own, if we add up all of it, it will give us quite a large hectarage of rice cropped. We also have a facility which is colored red here, which is the rice mill, which is a 3.3 ton per hour rice mill, which is part of this, which was built as part of this project, which should mill all the rice produced in this project and package and present in a very good way. I think the capacity is about 18,000 tons per annum. So what is it, 3.3 ton per hour feed mill. So we haven't run it in the last 3 years because it was concessioned out to the state government and the rice mill. Yes, it was concessioned out to them, but since then it hasn't actually run. It hasn't actually been put into use. So the state government can brief on that. So we also have a training center because the farmers are organized in cooperatives and associations. We have
Benjamin Ango from Rural Development Initiative, Civil Society. I want to find out, sir, if this project is revitalized to its full capacity, what will be the impact on the immediate communities and the Nigerian economy? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there more questions?
All this. My name is Ngozi Okuogo. I'm from Federal Ministry of Information. I know that federal government has this PPP policy. You talk like if you are implementing and haphazardly, can't we get a lot of wealthy Anambra people to actually revitalize these projects so that you produce in full capacity? Thank you.
So this project was concessioned to the Anambra state government, and from the look of things, it's like the concession is not working. Are you having a rethink on that concession, or is the state government reaching out to put it into a better use so that we don't have a failed project here?
Question. Like we explained earlier on, the government of Anambra State has retaken that facility, or has taken it back from the federal government, and we're looking for partners. It's a very huge complex.
Taking it back or taking it off?
Well,
Taking it back.
It was a huge investment by the federal government in collaboration with the Japanese government. It was abandoned years ago, and it means if you go there, you will weep at the wastage of facilities there. So we've taken it over. Is that better? And we are looking for partners because we can't afford on our own to send it back to life. And the Minister for Agriculture has been here. He was impressed with what he saw there, and we are talking with him. The government is talking with him, and he's giving us hope that something will happen there in a very big way. So we're hopeful.
No, Honorable Minister, it was never abandoned. The rice mill was not abandoned. We can even run it. If you open it for us now, we can run it. We have the expertise here trained by the Japanese to run it. You see, that is part of the problem, giving it outside partnership with this project. This project was prepared and had been running it up to that time, about three years back. So that's on the rice mills there.
Let me welcome all of us to this the Lower Anambra Irrigation Project. The story of this project has been the story of agriculture in Nigeria for a very long time. And the river basins that were conceived in the 70s and early 80s were unable to deliver on agriculture. they were unable to deliver on agriculture because they were based on the ideology that government will run agriculture, produce rice and sell in the market. Unfortunately, in my opinion, government was unable to do so. For the same reasons that the railways failed, NITEL failed, several other government agencies, Nigerian shipping shippers, shipping line, Nigerian National Shipping Line, Nigerian Airways, all of them crashed out because government and the public service were unable to run them on commercial, strongly ethics-driven lines. Because of that, we have again another example of how our investments went down the drain. What this administration has decided to do under the new agricultural transformation agenda is to re-energize these structures for the production of food through an engagement with the private sector. Even if you revive this agricultural project now and hand it over to the government to run, I can be very sure that in another 5 years we'll come back and see the same problem. If it was private farmers that had this opportunity, running their mills, running their tractors, running the irrigation, I am sure that this project will never have failed. It has not failed in other countries. But because of our attitude, in the public service particularly, we have run many projects aground. Now, I know that as we speak now, like I told you yesterday, the Minister of Agriculture is in Davos. He was invited by the World Economic Forum to present the new agricultural policy of Nigeria to the World Economic Forum. There has been a lot of interest in what we are doing from abroad, particularly from private investors. And what government is doing now is to prepare each project site for investment. And I'm sure that Anambra State alone can give Nigeria sufficient rice for domestic consumption and export. I'm not talking of Ebonyi or Sokoto or Niger or Nasarawa or Kebbi. But there is hardly any place you go in this country that we can't produce rice for export. We have started one in Taraba and it is working very well. We are doing some programs in Kebbi and it's also working very well. So what the Minister of Agriculture is doing now is to partner with the Minister of Water Resources to create the synergy necessary for us to restart these projects. And I'm sure we will succeed because there is a lot of interest. Already we have targeted for ourselves self-sufficiency in rice production by 2015. We are testing the systems now, and we know that government will not produce rice. Government is to do this, even to run the tractors. You can see what has happened. So that is why the new agricultural policy is completely now different, comprehensive, looking at agriculture as a business, not a social service by government. Where you will import tractors and keep them here and think that you have, no. It is better to encourage private farmers to take over those tractors, attach them to their farms. If you have a technical unit that can help them in terms of extension service, fine. But for government to do what it did in the 80s and 70s now, it will not work. I am sure you yourself are convinced it will not work. So therefore, we are here to let you know that government is committed to this project. The Minister of Agriculture has already come here, and Lower Anambra is a place where both ministers are now working hard to resuscitate. You can see government thinking. You are taking water from here, and you never thought about a simpler alternative to take water because it is government. Because you don't care. If it's a private person that came here, you would have studied all the options. You didn't. The gradient here means that water cannot come as easy as the one that you have just quickly discovered, which is cheaper, which is easier, which gives more water. But because it was public money, who cared? You will take it from Niger Republic and come here, and a contract will be awarded. what was most important is that the contract has been awarded. You know? So this is the kind of thing that President Goodluck Jonathan is seeking to change completely. That is what we are doing in all the sectors. You see, power supply, for all these years, people come and sing, make promises and go, nothing will be on ground. As you are watching around what we are doing in the power infrastructure and generation, you can see that there is completely new thinking. So as we are doing in power, that is exactly what the new agricultural transformation agenda is all about. A new policy where agriculture will be driven by business. Now, if you turn this lower river, say about 200 kilometers of pipelines, 400 kilometers of canals, and how many hundred kilometers of drains? 300 kilometers of drains. So you can just imagine the huge area. How many overall? How many acres was it intended? 5,000 hectares of land. 5,000 hectares of land. And I believe if this was done in partnership with private sector in 1981, Nigeria today will be exporting rice. Nigeria today definitely will be exporting rice. But it was seen as a government contract where people will come take their salary whether they produce rice or not. Because if it was not a government agency, all of you will not be working now. Because the private person will sack you. Let you go. If they didn't make profit this year, so we are bringing down the workforce. But because it's government, you know, we are civil servants. If it works, if it doesn't, our careers continue. No problem, but we should hands off these kind of projects. That is what the president is trying to do. Resuscitate, work with the private sector to take over these areas, concession, maybe the farms to private people, even the infrastructure, give support by way of loans and facilities for them to produce rice. Just like something that we saw in Shonga farms in Kwara. Even without this infrastructure, those ones are succeeding. They don't have this irrigation infrastructure, for example. So if you are to give this concession to Nigerians and foreigners, we are sure it will work. So the comprehensive program is going on. Government is intervening through the Natural Resources Fund, you know, so that this infrastructure will not completely die down. So we will do so to keep the place active and then look for investors who are already showing interest. And the present Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Additional, is on top of this. Is world class, has been round, and we believe that from what we have on ground, by the grace of God, these projects will take off, because Lower Anambra is one of the places that definitely is a low-hanging fruit that we can harvest. In another year or two, this place will be giving jobs to thousands of people and producing, you know, rice for Nigeria. So we want to thank you. But like you said, this is one of the, you can see how governments have failed in the past. And when we say we want to do things the same way, we will not succeed. That's why the President's transformation program is deliberate. Every of these policies we have measured and found that to continue the way it was done in the past, it will not work. So the President is working very hard on these projects, and definitely it will become a reality. We just thought we should explain this to you.
Are we done?